instead of compressing the opposition with a high defensive line, Inzaghi does the opposite, where he encourages the opposition to play a high line. For instance, when the ball is with a midfielder, you would see him and his partners moving back and passing it towards the keeper. This makes the opposition play a high line and pulls their first half forward, which then creates space between the lines and behind their defense for the center backs or the forwards to exploit. However, if the opposition prefers to stick to their zonal positions and block the central spaces, then it forces Inter to attack from the flanks using their wingbacks. But with no wingers in the formation, you might wonder who is this extra player rotating with the wingback. It's the center back again. As with the absence of a wide forward, the wingback often lacks support and gets outnumbered.
I'm finally here. My heart is pounding. 50,000 fans screaming. I can't get my breath. The whistle sounding.
They use the opposition's press as bait to create space behind and use their front overload to find an extra man to get forward. So like this, Inter has a squad full of versatile players capable of adapting to any role. And to develop this level of flexibility, it often takes months or even years of physical and mental training for players to gain confidence in multiple positions. However, to make this process more efficient, one modern way that top footballers are training themselves is with Be Your Best, a football training app in virtual reality. With Be Your Best, players can immerse themselves in realistic game situations and help them to become familiar with different roles and positions. For instance, a center back can train as a striker, or a midfielder can practice as a fullback. And this is all in a virtual environment without any physical load. And due to this, even Real Madrid's midfielder Tchouaméni uses this technology to practice and adapt to playing as a center back. And the best part is that you can train right from home with over 800 real-life scenarios designed to sharpen key skills like scanning, vision, and decision-making. So if you want to become a more calm and composed player on the pitch, then head to BeYourBest.com and use my code DK20 to get a discount of 20% on your first month or first year subscription. So just go to BeYourBest.com to get started, and the link is also in the description. Also, a big thanks to Be Your Best for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the tactics. However, when playing against a high-pressing sides that take the risk of going man-to-man, there's a really high chance of losing the ball in critical areas with these rotations. So in such cases, Inzaghi completely turns off his previous tactics and skips the build-up entirely. And to achieve that, he intentionally instructs his midfielders and wingbacks to stay deep and create a deep overload, while forcing the high-pressing opposition to press even higher. So using this, they patiently pass the ball around the backline until a visible space is created between the second and last line, and then they swiftly play a direct long ball into that space to exploit it. And after getting into the attacking half, when you look at their final third shape, instead of compressing the opposition with a high defensive line, Inzaghi does the opposite, where he encourages the opposition to play a high line. For instance, when the ball is with a midfielder, you would see him and his partners moving back and passing it towards the keeper. This makes the opposition play a high line and pulls their first half forward, which then creates space between the lines and behind their defense for the center backs or the forwards to exploit. However, if the opposition prefers to stick to their zonal positions and block the central spaces, then it forces Inter to attack from the flanks using their wingbacks. But with no wingers in the formation, you might wonder who is this extra player rotating with the wingback. It's the center back again. As with the absence of a wide forward, the wingback often lacks support and gets outnumbered by markers. So Inzaghi instructs his wide center backs to act as extra fullbacks, who would usually support the wingback by making overlapping or underlapping runs and distract the markers around them. However, if the opposition counters this overload by sending more numbers, then it would be difficult to progress through the flanks. So in such cases, just like the oppositions, they send more numbers towards one side of the pitch, where you'll see strikers, midfielders, and even the opposite wingback inverting to overload that side. So this invites the opposition to tilt their shape even more. And as soon as they shift to one side, the player with the ball makes a surprising reverse pass to the opposite side. However, with all the players on one side, who actually received them? This is again where Inzaghi's wide center-back come into play. As with the opposition is preoccupied with marking the attackers and turned their entire attention on one side, the far-sided center-back quietly makes the opposite run towards the no-man area and receives the diagonal ball with ample space and time to play a dangerous cross into the box. And to take further advantage of this, you may also see the far-sided center-back advancing and getting inside the box for the cross. So like this, you'll often witness unusual moments where one center-back is crossing towards another one inside the box. Whenever a team loses the ball in the final third, you typically see the attackers acting as the first line of defense to recover possession. However, due to their lack of ball-winning abilities, the opposition could easily bypass them and get into the attacking half. But when we look at the counter-pressing of Inter, that first presser is again the center-back. As after losing the ball, instead of running back to their original positions, the center-backs instantly press the ball carrier and use their excellent ball-winning ability to win back possession within the attacking half. This makes it extremely difficult for the opposition to bypass them, and often halts counterattacks before they can reach the attacking half. But during the opposition's build-up, Inter finally retreats back to their normal 5-3-2 shape. And instead of playing a high defensive line, they don't really press the back line, and prefer to stay in a mid-block, where both the forwards drop deep to closely cover the opposition's pivot. So this effectively blocks all the central passing lanes for the opposition's backline to play through. However, due to the narrowness of the shape, it completely frees up the opposition's fullbacks to receive the ball and advance toward the backline. So to counter this, instead of the wingback stepping up, the ball-sided center mid would drift wide and cover that space, while his position is then taken by an advancing center-back or the pivot.
Balls come loose and the chase is on.
The reason for not sending the wing-back forward is that if the opposition manages to pass the ball to the winger, the center-back would have to cover him. And since most center-backs are generally slower than full-backs, they can easily be outpaced and outplayed by the winger's speed and dribbling. So having a natural full-back in these situations provides a better defensive balance, ensuring the right players are in the right positions to deal with these threats. However, with the center mid drifting wide to cover the full back, it can leave a gap in the central areas, and if the center back or pivot fails to step up in time, the opposition could exploit this by quickly passing it to the unmarked player and eventually break them centrally. So to address this scenario, you'll occasionally see the wide center back step up to directly press the opposition's fullback, while the rest of the back line shifts to cover his position. This ensures the midfielders remain intact centrally, forcing them to advance through the flanks. And when they actually advances through the flanks, instead of tilting the entire back five toward one side, Inzaghi turns it into a back six. For instance, except for the wing-back and ball-sided defender, the rest of the back line stays inside the box to track the opposition forwards and maintain a central overload against crosses. So to cover the gap between the two, the pivot often drops deep as an extra center-back, while his position is covered by one of the forwards.
ATALANTA.
And when they win the ball back using this, you'll often see 4 or 5 players rapidly pushing forward to counterattack, regardless of their actual positions, where they usually drive the ball wide and deliver early crosses into the box before even reaching the final third. The reason for this is with the opposition's defense is still retreating back and not yet fully organized. Delivering an early cross could be detrimental and exposes their weakness. And to take further advantage of this, instead of running narrowly, Inter's forwards spread out wide and target the backside of the opposition, which acts as a blind spot for defenders. So this makes it difficult for the opposition to track their movements and force them to decide whether to follow the forwards or focus on the crosser.
È stata una partita difficile, combattuta, il primo tempo è stato un primo tempo bloccato, tutte e due le squadre chiaramente sentivano l'importanza della partita, però i ragazzi sono stati bravissimi perché abbiamo vinto su un campo difficile contro una squadra di qualità e quindi sono molto contento. Poi abbiamo avuto delle difficoltà, infortuni, però molto bene i ragazzi subentrati a freddo, penso a Frattesi, a De Vrij, anche agli altri tre, ma Frattesi e De Vrij con poco riscaldamento hanno fatto una partita gigantesca, hanno fatto tutti una grande gara di quella che ci voleva per vincere qua, se no insomma a Roma non si vince. Degli altri dobbiamo guardare a noi, dobbiamo proseguire in questo percorso, la quarta vittoria in fila, 3 in campionato, 1 in Champions. Siamo agli inizi, ma vogliamo continuare a lavorare così. Speriamo che non siano, e non penso che lo siano, dei problemi importanti, valuteremo. Poi abbiamo Zelinski e Aslani a casa, Buchanan che tra un po' tornerà chiaramente con noi, e quindi dovremo cercare insomma di recuperare i giocatori, perché con tutte queste partite ravvicinate avrò bisogno.
Mister, ieri alla vigilia di questa partita aveva chiesto grinta, determinazione, attenzione nelle 2 fasi, tutte componenti che abbiamo visto questa sera. Vi portate a casa un punto che potevano essere tranquillamente 3.
Sì, perché abbiamo avuto tante situazioni, però non dimentichiamo che giocavamo con Manchester City, il secondo tempo nel finale ci siamo abbassati un po' troppo, abbiamo rischiato qualcosina, però i ragazzi sono stati giganteschi, quello che avevo chiesto, hanno fatto una prova di carattere, di tecnica, e abbiamo avuto insomma 3 occasioni clamorose che dovevamo sfruttare meglio, però ai ragazzi non posso dire nulla.
Cosa le è piaciuto di più questa sera della squadra e cosa è mancato secondo lei per vincere?
È mancato il gol, però mi è piaciuto tutto per come hanno lavorato insieme è stata la nostra parola in questi 2 anni e mezzo, dovremo continuare a farlo, lavorare di squadra tutti insieme per fare queste ottime prestazioni.
Apro una parentesi su Zelinski, oggi debutto per lui dal primo minuto, la sua visione di gioco può essere un fattore quest'anno per l'Inter?
Assolutamente, un giocatore che abbiamo voluto, che ci darà una mano perché è un ottimo giocatore.
Adesso c'è un po' di riposo oppure si continua a lavorare per il derby?
No, stiamo già lavorando, i ragazzi sono già in campo, stanno lavorando e sappiamo che questa partita importantissima ci darà una grande mano. Penso che il primo tempo abbiamo avuto un buon approccio e lì dovevamo essere bravi ad andare in vantaggio, perché il Monza ha fatto un'ottima gara, si è difeso molto basso concedendo pochi spazi, e nonostante quello abbiamo avuto i primi 20 minuti 2 volte con Lautaro, una volta con Di Marco, la possibilità di andare in vantaggio, e lì probabilmente la partita si sarebbe messa dalla nostra parte. Poi abbiamo sbagliato qualcosina più del dovuto tecnicamente, nel momento che nel secondo tempo ci siamo messi i 3 attaccanti, abbiamo preso questo gol di moto, insomma fino a quel momento era stato inoperoso, e mi prendo la reazione della squadra, perché all'82esimo abbiamo pareggiato, abbiamo avuto un'altra occasione con Frattesi, c'è delusione perché volevamo la vittoria, però andiamo avanti e continuiamo a lavorare. Chiaramente è stata la prima volta che ci sono state le nazionali, però sono giocatori abituati a giocare sempre, non è semplice, però siamo abituati, qualche giocatore è terminato, qualcuno è riuscito a rientrare prima, avevamo qualche problema sugli attaccanti perché 4 dei 5 erano stati tutti colpiti. Bene, siamo subito attaccanti, ha fatto la mezzana, ha fatto quello che non spetta, ci ha portato qualità, ci ha portato palletti, un giocatore che conosciamo, che abbiamo voluto, che ci dà la soddisfazione, perché è un giocatore che conosciamo tutti, ma oltretutto è un ragazzo che si è inserito molto bene con noi e vuole aiutarci a raggiungere i nostri obiettivi. Sapevamo il calendario che c'era, quindi sappiamo che comincerà la Champions mercoledì, poi il derby, insomma tante partite ravvicinate, dovremo farci trovare pronti perché senz'altro dovremo fare ottime prestazioni.
Along with the wide center backs advancing, you will also see the middle one pushing into the final third, especially looking for crosses from the wingbacks, so all 3 center backs can be like liberos, where their primary focus is to exploit the spaces created by the upper players and drive the ball straight into the final third. And this role has also turned them into some of the rarest assist-making center backs in Europe. Meanwhile, both wingbacks play an incredibly versatile role for Inter. Aside from staying wide and delivering crosses into the box, they drift inside to pull the opposition's fullbacks centre-backs narrower to create space for the wide centre-back, and also interchange positions with them when they advances through the centre. In terms of the midfielders, Çalhanoğlu has mastered the role of deep-lying playmaker. However, before Inzaghi, he was primarily played as a number 10, who mostly engaged in the final third alongside the wingers and forwards. But after joining Inter, he's proven to be even more effective playing from deeper positions. And with Inzaghi's system of advancing center-backs, he gets more time and space on the ball to deliver creative passes from a variety of angles, making him one of the best modern playmakers. Speaking about playmakers, instead of playing number 10, Inzaghi deploys two number 8s that stay slightly deeper and act as roaming playmakers. And due to their deeper positions, the opposition's second line is often forced to stay up and track them, which then increases the gap between the defensive and midfield lines. So up front, out of the two strikers, one would act as a deep-lying forward, who usually drops deep into that space and links the midfield with the attack, while the other one plays more as a target man, who pushes the back line deeper to create space for Martinez to exploit. In terms of the mentality, Inzaghi always prioritizes getting into the final third as quickly as possible, as they don't aim to dominate possession, but rather use it as a tool to create constant scoring opportunities. So this makes their play quite attacking. And to complement that, they also play a really high tempo, where they constantly look out for space to pass and bait the opposition with their irregular player movements. While in terms of creative freedom, Inzaghi applies relational approaches into his positional structure, so he encourages his players to get out of their comfort zones and occupy random positions to create space. While in defense, unlike normal teams, Inzaghi's Inter approaches the final third with a mid-block and encourages the opposition to push high, so they can target the space behind the lines to play through. In the final third, Inter prefers early crosses to prevent the opposition from settling into their defensive shape, and also uses through balls to play into the spaces created by the incoming pressers. So overall, when you witness tactics like Inzaghi's Inter Milan, it truly marks a new revolution in attacking football. A revolution where instead of solely relying on actual playmakers to create opportunities, almost every player in the formation now takes on the role of a playmaker. And this is only possible when you have players who can trust each other's rotations and have the ability to take on that responsibility, which is exactly what Inter has. And with more managers shifting their style towards relationism, if we travel from Italy all the way to Spain, there's a famous club that was once known for its tiki-taka and total football, but has now suddenly turned into a relational side that thrives on risky passes and an intense gegenpressing. So what exactly is the tactical revolution happening at? Barcelona.
They defended that situation really well, but they don't want to get pushed back like that again for a while.
And they were fortunate not to concede a penalty there, guys. That's just outside the box.
Look at this build-up footage. It might seem like the three center-backs are forming a diamond with the keeper. However, if you closely look at this, those three center-backs are actually the three midfielders. So where are the center-backs? If we fast-forward the clip a little bit, look at these two players running with the strikers. You got it right. Now see this attacking footage of Inter. If we rewind that again, the player who made the cross and the player who received it inside the box are once again the center-backs. So what exactly is going on? This is the strange tactics of Inzaghi's Inter Milan. When they revert deep, you'll notice the center-back still staying forward. The reason for this is that with fewer players in the back line, it opens up a huge space behind for the opposition to counter. So this triggers their desire to win the ball back to exploit that space. Also, with the center-back still near the back line, Inter creates a numerical overload up front. So as the opposition grows impatient and moves forward, Inter quickly starts their second attempt, where they use the opposition's press as bait to create space behind and use their front overload to find an extra man to get forward. So like this, Inter has a squad full of versatile players capable of adapting to any role. And to develop this level of flexibility, it often takes months or even years of physical and mental training for players to gain confidence in multiple positions. However, to make this process more efficient, one modern way that top footballers are training themselves is with Be Your Best, a football training app in virtual reality. With Be Your Best, players can immerse themselves in realistic game situations and help them to become familiar with different roles and positions. For instance, a center...
Seek ye first the kingdom of Yah and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Hallelujah. Alright then, guys. Serious times we're living in. Don't lose your mind.